You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News. Let's go back to Guy, Ben, and Frank.
Welcome back to more of Inside the News, and this is a little bit different than our normal programming, but I'll tell you, this is absolutely fascinating. We were talking about this raid in Frankfurt, Germany. We've got Frank Vernuccio, top left, Ben Brunson, bottom middle. My name's Guy Wehman. You hear us on the radio affiliates across the country, AUN TV and YouTube, and hopefully that we're not going to be banned on YouTube because of the subject matter, which could happen because they're owned by Google, and we're going to be talking about Section 230 later. Frank, what is interesting, and we're going to get back to Ben in here in just a minute, is if this is true, what Ben is revealing, then the people are saying, well, why haven't we already heard about it? Isn't that the question?
That's the essence of the story of 2020. We've talked a bit on the margins about how Facebook, how Twitter, how Google itself has censored the news, how the major media, for the most part, has refused to discuss the real facets of the 2020 campaign, how they've covered up the lies and the cheating done by the Democrats throughout the campaign. That's the essence of what's happening to the U.S. news media. We talked this morning, just already in this part of the show, about a couple of major stories. We talked about how the Attorney General of Texas has filed a major suit in the United States Supreme Court. One would assume this would be the headline story of every newspaper, the number one story of every news broadcast on TV. It's not there. It's not being discussed at all. You can go to Google and you're not going to see very much about it there either. We talked about an American hero dying, Chuck Yeager. Normally, again, would be one of the big human interest stories. The media says nothing about it because Chuck Yeager was a symbol of American greatness. This is a media that has become essentially the equivalent of Pravda and Izvestia in the old Soviet Union. It's not the news they're giving you. It's the party line of left-wing Democrats. That is the essence of everything we're battling about. The reason this election has gone on the way it is because the Democrats knew that they could lie, cheat, and steal and get away with it because the media would cover up for them.
Everybody who's seen the results has almost categorically, except for the left who doesn't want to admit it, categorically have said that Donald Trump won in a landslide. They couldn't believe it. And that's why
Guy, if I may intervene for just a moment. If you look at the evolution of the way the media has talked about the cheating scandal. First, it was, of course, there's no cheating at all. What nonsense. How can you say that? Now we're at the point where the media is saying, well, there's not enough cheating to have changed the nature of the election. I guess the next evolution has got to be, well, yeah, there really was enough cheating to change the election. That's what Paxton's lawsuit, I think, is going to bring out. And we're going to see whether the media is going to be too embarrassed to cover it up.
You know, Frank, when they say, of course, because we heard Bill Clinton say, of course, that's a way for them to deny it and say, I'm not lying to you, but it's not a lie out there, so it cannot be a perjury type of a charge. And, I mean, you're kind of agreeing with that, aren't you?
Yeah, it depends what the meaning of is, as Bill Clinton used to say. Clearly, you know, and I think I used this example last week. The Democrat legal argument is similar to a bank robber who robbed a bank but only took half the money. And when caught, says, well, I only took half the money, therefore you shouldn't prosecute me. The Democrat and the major media position is now that, yes, we stole a lot of votes, but probably not all the votes. So therefore, don't prosecute me. Don't pay attention to what I did. Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. Oz, the great and powerful Oz. Okay, Ben, let's get back to where we were. And this is absolutely fascinating. And we will carry this on to the third segment. This is so deep and so good. Nobody else is covering it. Absolutely nobody. But yet all of this has been verified. Ben has spent countless hours digging into this research, and he shared it with both Frank and I. And Ben, go.
Support this rumor of a raid taking place. There There's salacious parts of the rumor that Gina Haspel, the CIA director, was there and she was arrested and sent to Gitmo. I think that's just a little far-fetched. But a raid taking place at the CIA facility, all of the data we know about information being sent over the internet into a server in Frankfurt, and the seizure of a server, we know that there is CIA software designed to hack into systems like the Dominion system to impact votes. Of course, they're not supposed to do that in the American vote. But it does beg the question, and you started this segment with this, if this exists, time is running out for this information to be presented. And I think the window is pretty short, because I think it becomes all the more difficult after the Electoral College has met. And if things are unchanged right now, the Electoral College will cast more than 270 votes for Joe Biden. And it makes it politically all the more difficult. Now, it doesn't mean the Supreme Court can't step in after the fact to essentially declare the election null based on systemic fraud and to send this to the House of Representatives for a vote. But it would be a lot easier before the Electoral College meets. So we're going to know very soon whether this server had the evidence required to be presented to the Supreme Court to essentially show that this is a slam dunk case of fraud. And that is what has been hinted to and alluded to, not only by Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani, but also by the president, who as recently as this past weekend hinted at big news coming. So we're going to find out very soon.
That is Ben Brunson. He's the author of the Falstaff, Enigma, and Esther Sling. You can find Ben at benbrunson.com. You can also find his books at amazon.com. Tremendous Christmas presents. Look him up there. And we've got Frank Vernuccio with the American Analysis of News and Media. He's in New York. You can find Frank at usagovpolicy.com. We're on affiliates all across the country, the AUN TV network in Northern California, also on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. We have just scratched the surface of what we want to do. This show is so big, we could almost go for 2 or 3 hours of the depth of what we want to share with you. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.